Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 46 of a year of change. I originally had planned on doing today sort of a food entry where it's the middle of the week. And so I thought I would try to find some where we sort of have been focusing on snacks the majority of the time. We did a cereal one a while ago, but I wanted to find some snacks that people generally thought were going to be, fairly healthy alternatives, but weren't. And the internet being the internet has not been much help at all. Aside from things like popcorn, which is fine, but because we put salt and butter and everything else on it, unless you're having plain popcorn, like a weirdo, then that's not really an alternative. I did find out that rice cakes were also bad because they're pretty much empty calories, which is why they're so low, but they have no nutrients in them. But when I originally started looking, I wanted to find some stuff that people thought, no, that's a good snack, that's a good alternative, and then find out, oh my God, no, it isn't. We shouldn't be eating that at all. It's just as bad as regular chips. So I figured that this, is going to take a little bit of research. However, I'm finding lists that are just ridiculous. I found one finally that it was, the top 20 snacks that are, not the surprisingly unhealthy snacks. So they started at the bottom and worked their way up. And number 20, out of 20, so they still have 19 more of these things to go. Number 20 was a chocolate-covered donut. So I'm not quite sure who the hell thinks that a chocolate-covered donut is a healthy snack in any case. So thank you, WebMD, for giving us useless, shitty information. So I sort of discarded that because every single list that I find in every little nook and cranny, if you go to a regular website, like a proper one, like Harvard Health or Mayo Clinic, they don't give you this, blatantly obvious information. So it's stuff that, sometimes it'll take some digging, but they normally won't say, oh, well, here's 10 snacks that you should never eat. There are certain things that we kind of all know, like dried fruit has a lot of sugar because you're eating like 10 apples at once, that sort of thing. But putting something out there that says, well, don't eat donuts because they're an unhealthy snack. And I think number 19 was potato chips. So I didn't even bother going through the rest of them because I figure if those are at the bottom of the list, at the top is just going to be, bags of sugar. So it's kind of pointless to try to find out, what's in there. Generally speaking, if it tastes really, really good, it's probably really bad for us. And we kind of know that. I just don't want to try to find something that's going to be a snack that you think this is just sawdust and tastes horrible, but I have to choke it down. Which is why we've sort of concentrated on things like the dates and I was going to say raisins, the grapes, and what was the other thing? Pickles. Yes. So I sort of went the other way in this, and I ended up going in the opposite direction, mainly because of my experience of this past weekend when I had deep fried food for the first time in like 6 months or more, which didn't go over very well. So I ended up, as the internet does, you click on one thing and then you move on and keep finding other stuff. It inevitably will lead to porn, but before you get to that, you can actually find some information. And I ended up sort of stumbling upon a number of different lists of deep fried foods that people have actually made, and not just like a one-off thing where they said, oh, we tried this, it was wacky and it was crazy and it was horrible. These are ones that are now sort of not common, but you're able to find them in different places, whether it's restaurants or fairs and stuff like that. And some of them are really, really out there. So I figured we would just sort of go through some. I know this is really sort of the antithesis of what we're trying to do, but I think it's important as well to look at these and just go, ugh. Like that people, some of us in there are eating these things. Where I live, we don't really have like a state fair or provincial fair or anything like that. And when we do, it's standard stuff, hot dogs and chips and fries and things like that. But we do have a restaurant here, or we did. I don't know if it's still here or not. Actually, yes, it is. It is still here. Anyway, that they serve deep fried ice cream, which I've never tried. I've just never gotten around to it. It's been here for about 20 years, and it's one of those things I never got around to trying. I'm not a big restaurant person to begin with, and certainly not going to go and say, yes, give me some deep fried ice cream looking the way I do, because people will stare. So I understand that one. I still, bleh. And I think there's a place here, I think it might even be the same restaurant, that does deep fried cheesecake, which at first I couldn't sort of wrap my brain around, but then someone told me it was like a tortilla. The cheesecake is wrapped in a tortilla and that's deep fried or something. So I've never tried that either. But those are things that I think, okay, if you're like really going way out there, I can sort of see it. But some of the things that I ran across are just so weird that there doesn't seem to be any point to it other than the fact that someone went, I bet you we can deep fry it. So the first of these that I think sort of stands out is bacon. Now, there seems to be this big resurgence that everyone's adding bacon to everything. You can literally get like bacon deodorant and bacon soap and everything else. It's just sort of everywhere. And someone decided that they were going to deep fry actual bacon. And that's something, like a lot of these actually are going to be things that you're just going to think, that's too much. That really is way too much. It might be something that you would try on a dare, but in the end, it's going to wreak havoc with everything. So there was deep fried mayonnaise, which I guess they freeze the mayonnaise and, well, it was bacon flavored mayonnaise. And staying with the bacon thing, where they put it in ice cube trays and then they deep fry that. So we aren't even really just deep frying foods anymore. We're deep frying just lard. And it gets worse. It gets much, much worse. There were other things. There were deep fried Kool-Aid was another one, which they just mix Kool-Aid in with a bunch of sugar and flour, and then they're just like donut holes or Timbits or, whatever you call them, wherever you are. And, I mean, those sort of go along with a lot of other stuff like deep fried cookie dough and, what was the other one? Deep fried cream eggs, the little Cadbury chocolate cream eggs. And there's stuff that, I mean, the majority of this stuff, I'm assuming that they're freezing to fry. And you think it's just, I mean, there's such a thing as having a sweet tooth, which is fine. Everyone has one at some point. But there are certain things like cotton candy that you can't eat a tremendous amount of because it's just all sugar. And at some point you just go, I need a drink of water just to sort of get rid of everything. Which actually is one of the things that not deep fried cotton candy, but deep fried sugar cubes was one of them. So we aren't even deep frying sauces or fat or foods or anything else, and we aren't even mixing it with anything. We're just saying, fuck it, grab a handful of sugar, pack it into a cube or freezer, however they do it, and then batter it and serve that. So I think the weirdest, well, I mean, the other one was deep fried bubblegum, which wasn't really bubblegum. It was a deep fried marshmallow flavored with bubblegum. So I don't know why they just didn't call it a deep fried marshmallow. I mean, we've all roasted marshmallows and they are great in small quantities, but again, they're just all sugar. So it gets to a point where like having that much deep fried stuff, I mean, some of you might be sitting there going, this is awesome. This is the greatest list I've ever heard. I'm not trying to do that to tempt you or to get you off track. I mean, we're at a stage now, we're almost at day 50. So you're at a stage where I think you're probably pretty safe and you're probably going to have the same reaction I did if you end up beating it. But over and above everything else that I read, the weirdest one by far, and there were a number of different things that are just sort of interesting, not necessarily just sort of going over the top. Like they had deep fried cheeseburgers and you think, okay, it's sort of like a corn dog. But there's deep fried Coke, which I guess they mix it into a batter and stuff like that. But the weirdest thing that I read, and I thought, okay, this is probably going to be like the bubblegum thing where it's a different actual ingredient, was deep fried butter. Now, I figured this was just like a name or something that they've added so much butter to it, like a cinnamon roll or something like that. But no, it's actually a stick of butter. They freeze it, and then they batter it in like a cinnamon sugary batter, and then they deep fry that. When they're done, then they put stuff like chocolate or caramel or whatever else they put on it, and an additional glaze. So you're literally eating exactly what it says on the tin, deep fried butter, because apparently when you bite into it, you're just eating a stick of butter. And I mean, the worst I think that I've gone, like the worst extreme I've gone to, are matzo sticks. That's deep fried cheese, which is pretty bad. I have never gotten to a point where I was eating something that was deep fried that wasn't like fish, or I haven't gone as far as even a deep fried. I don't know. You know what? I don't. Oh, yes, I probably have had a corn dog. But beyond that, it's stuff that in your head you think, no, that should be deep fried. Like fries. And I know that this is probably the worst topic to have for a weight loss vlog. But it was one of those things like the man versus food where you're just watching and you're thinking, people eat this to a point where it's popular enough. Like the deep fried butter is now a common staple food at fairs all over the country. And it's one of those things that I'm trying to wrap my brain around the fact that you're literally biting into a stick of butter covered in batter. And it's beyond me. So, I mean, it's no wonder we're all fat, because we eat shit like this all the time. And not to even go near the aftermath. I mean, this weekend, I had fun with my friends. It was one of those things like, yes, this is good. It didn't have the same sort of, oh, this is awesome that I thought it was going to have, because I just haven't had it in so long. But I wasn't expecting I don't want to say aftermath again, because I've already used that. The resulting effect of having deep fried food when I haven't had it in a very, very long time. So I think it's going to be one of those things that I'm probably not going to be having for a very, very long time. However, if the rest of you feel the need to, be stuck at home for 2 or 3 days with all your food going through your colon like the centrifuge at NASA, by all means, help yourself. Have lots and lots of fun. You'll get dehydrated and you'll probably want to die. But for me, I'm going to just safely stay away from that stuff for the time being. So I just thought it was an interesting thing to sort of bring up. I'm really hoping that, I'm sure there are some people that are going, this is great. I'm going to try some of these, and making notes and writing them down and looking up recipes. Probably looking up recipes right now. But there are some of us, myself included, that look at that the same way that you would look at something and say, oh, it's a glass of rubbing alcohol. It's like, booze is fine. I like rum. I like coolers. I like alcohol. But drinking rubbing alcohol is a little too much. And very, very poisonous, by the way, so don't do it. But it was one of those things that really sort of struck me, that you're just sort of reading through this list of these horrible foods that aren't even really things that people have said, no, I had to eat it because I lost a bet. Like, these are things that we're going out there and eating on a regular basis. Maybe not the deep fried butter on a regular basis, but it's enough that it's one of the most popular foods out there for, state fairs and things like that. I highly suggest you do not go look up these recipes, because it's not going to take much to have someone say, I'm going to try this. There was one that actually looked pretty good when at a cursory glance at it, was deep fried tequila shots. And I thought, that might be interesting. So I went to go look at it, and no, it's just deep fried cake. And they've just flavored it with tequila. So it wasn't the same thing at all. So deep fried cake is sort of like the deep fried ice cream and stuff like that. You think, I can sort of see how you would want to try it at some point, but having it as a regular dessert, or even as a full dessert of that, would just be crazy. Oh, and while we're on the topic, there's apparently another one that is very, very popular, and I think I've heard it around here as well. I've heard people talk about it before, called a blooming onion, or some variation of that. And all it is, it's an onion, so you think, it's not too bad. But they fill it with butter and batter and a whole bunch of stuff, and they deep fry the whole thing, and it looks like a flower. Apparently it's so bad that there's something like 3,000 calories in a single onion, which is an insane amount. I didn't bother looking up the amount of fat that's in there and everything else. It's something like 5 times what you're supposed to have every day. But because you would think it's sort of like an onion ring, but it's apparently way, way worse. And I don't know why. I think it's because they mix a whole bunch of stuff with it. That's another one that I've never tried, and likely not going to. So, but without revisiting the horror show that was my house after the weekend, just one of those things that where we've changed the way that we've been eating over the past few weeks, whether or not you've made a conscious decision to say, okay, well, I'm going to stop eating this or stop eating that, because we've been watching our calories, we aren't eating the insanely high fatty foods and sugary foods and things like that. So when I think back, it's not that surprising that, it would react that way. And I'm sure that if you were to think back 6 weeks, that, go back and think, well, if I was to eat something that I had 6 weeks ago, would it be something that I'd be able to handle, or would it just say, nope, it's very nice, it tasted great, everyone needs to get out immediately, and it would just exit through whatever hole was available? So, just something to think about, not literally that, just for that, but just, our eating habits, where they've changed and things like that. And again, this is just one of those things. It was a weird list. I thought I would share it with you. I originally was going to do this as a stack thing for apples, which way on the other end of the pendulum. But as luck would have it, I don't have any apples left. I bought a bunch and took them into people to work to see if they wanted to try them, and I didn't bother saving any for myself, which was really stupid. And I'm just too lazy to go to the store, so I'm probably going to do that next week. And not just, apples are healthy, but I'm really picky when it comes to apples, but I've really only liked one sort of type. The other ones are just kind of, I don't know, bleh. But I found another type, which is really, really good. But we'll touch on that next week. You sort of get back on the healthy track. And they're huge, and they're really, really good. So they aren't going to be just one of those, I have a carrot stick and, things like that. But that is pretty much it for this one. So enjoy the imagery. But... And if you want, certainly go and try to find like the weirdest fried foods. There's some really weird ones out there. But these were just the sort of things that sort of really stuck out as going so far over the top that they're just being deep fried just for the sake of being deep fried. I don't understand how it can add to the flavor of anything. Like deep frying butter is just... It's just like drinking a glass of cooking oil. To me, I've never tried it, so I could be wrong, but it just seems really weird. So, hopefully, this isn't going to get any of you to sort of break free from what you've been doing for the past few weeks and go out and try one. And if you do try one, and, hopefully, take something before you eat it, just to save yourself and your family some grief. But... I'll leave it there, because otherwise it's going to get really graphic and inappropriate, even though I've said the word porn twice now because of that one. Sorry. Anyway, thanks to the internet for giving me no information, and thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me, and in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.